So, you know, I don't have much to say. Well, I guess I have a lot to say. Um, I don't know. What is a little, what is a lot? It's all in the eye of the beholder, right? Because I would say that Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and all these other people have a lot of money, but I guess it's not enough. You know what I'm saying? Um, and I would say I have a little money, but compared, that's why you can't compare shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, comparisons are dualistic thought. You know what I'm saying? We can make relative comparisons, but sometimes it doesn't really help. You know what I'm saying? Like when you were a kid and you didn't want to eat some fucking bullshit because it was nasty or you were full, and your parent was like, "You're gonna eat all that fucking food." It's kids in Africa that don't have food. Don't be using kids in Africa to manipulate me. What the fuck? You know, it's like this whole idea of adults using weird ass tactics to manipulate children and lie to them. Now you grow up and you're fucking about to eat to the point of throwing up because all you hear in the back of your head is like, "Oh, kids in Africa don't have any fucking food." Like, damn, that shit is sad. They should have food. Thank you, white supremacy, white supremacist colonization, for these kids not having food. Thank you. But what the fuck does that have to do with me? So, we grow up being just totally confused about what is up and what is down. You know what I'm saying? I'm using kids in Africa not having food in order to justify myself eating some bullshit till I throw up. The motivational tactics of this society have been fucked for a long time. I personally think that we could come up with much better, healthier ones. But I guess, old people will tell you that's idealism, wishful thinking. Um, so, first off, let me say that when I say old people suck, um, I'm speaking more of ideology. You know what I'm saying? A resistance to change, a resistance to seeing things from a different perspective, a resistance ultimately to growth. And, old people suck at teaching and like raising kids and, important things. They're just like bad at it. You know what I'm saying? And on one hand, I want to show my parents and old people and all these people grace because I understand that you know these karmic cycles have been going on for thousands of years and they're products of their environment, and they used to get beat with switches, and their parents yelled at them and locked them in dungeons and kicked them and whatever the fuck else they did to our parents and older people. But just because you suffered doesn't mean that you should want to see your kids suffer the same way. It's a very weird mentality that has been completely normalized. Like, well, my parents beat me, so I'm gonna beat my kids. I turned out fine. It turns out you didn't turn out fine. You make excuses for beating kids. Use your words. But you were never taught to use your words. I promise you can learn to use your words. They're like, no, I'd rather run away from my PTSD by beating my kids, and then explaining to other adults at adult functions where we barely know how to show up in full because we're always worried about other adults judging us. I like to tell them how I had to beat my kid because my kid is so bad and dumb. Well, it turns out that you raise your kid, and whatever they're doing is probably a result of your raising them. Crazy idea. Wild idea. Science and psychology is just wild like that. You know, not saying that it's perfect, but turns out that the environment someone is raised in has an effect on their development. Who would have thought it? It's news to me. I was always taught nature over nurture. You know what I'm saying? Which is another white supremacist colonization tactic to get your mind fucked. You know what I'm saying? Oh, no, excuse these weirdo environments that we have created for the population, that's built around people glorifying suffering, hustle culture, judging people, very unhealthy shit. But excuse that, it's their fault. It's their genetics that is the issue. It's their genes. The dumb is in their genes, not in our societal makeup. It's just so fucking stupid, honestly. It's just. I just pray, for the youth to not be held by these dumbass assertions and manipulations for as long as I was. Because you end up beating yourself up over shit that has nothing to do with you. That is not your fault, Like society be dumb as hell. And a lot of adults being dumb as hell. I knew adults were dumb as hell for a long time, but they're held up as the pinnacle of reason. And they give you food, and my parents, bless their heart, they, bought me toys. They did their best, they did their best, and I shout out to them. With much respect to them, you know what I'm saying? But just like in sports or in life, sometimes people's best is not that good. Because I think, right, how do people I grew up in the suburbs, even though, my mom and my dad, they, can't really ever remember a time where they got along. Like a lot of kids, my parents, probably should have got divorced a lot earlier in life. And, but they were trying to do the biblical thing. They were trying to follow the Bible. But y'all were having premarital sex, but y'all refused to divorce. Okay, I don't get it. It's not for me to understand. I just have to understand how it affected me in my childhood and come to grips with the fact that I didn't have that much fun as a child, or I feel disconnected from my parents. I never felt safe in my household, you know what I'm saying? Despite being in the suburbs, despite, not being poor. I definitely was not poor. My mom and my dad were definitely on different wavelengths about finances. I was getting completely different energy from my mom about finances than from my father. Me and my father didn't really talk that much, so it makes sense. He wasn't really around, and when he was around, it's kind of like trying to talk to a mannequin. I probably would have had better conversations with Chat GPT. So that is one thing that AI might be useful. We give us men that at least fake care about us. If you can replace some of these emotionally numb men with AI that actually has conversations with their children, maybe we don't need humanity. You know what I'm saying? Or humans can just be sperm donors. You know what I'm saying? You shoot the club up, whatever. Then you get the Chat GPT mannequin to come in and care about your kids because you don't know how to. But ultimately I have sympathy and empathy for all these older people who seem to have grown up in crazy times. You know what I'm saying? And they have just transferred to creating crazy fucking times today. You know, but whatever, whatever. Oh yes, I started rambling and forgot what the hell I even originally started recording about old people sucking. Okay, so I can't plan shit. I just gotta say shit. You know what I'm saying? But I just think it's amazing. You know, however you relate to that word. I think it's amazing that old people are like, yeah, we gotta kill people for the economy to keep going. And you're like, do we? And they're like, yes, people have to die. That's just how it goes, how it always has been, and if we have our way, how it always will be. Younger people are like, maybe we could not kill people or have people die for money and material reasons. And old people are like, you saw fucking pansies. How dare you say some pussy ass shit like you don't need human death to keep your economy going. And then kids are just like totally mind fucked because they're like, our whole economy and country is built on blood and murder. They told us it was built on hard work, but turns out it's built on hard work by slaves or by child labor overseas or by Hispanic people and immigrants whose countries have been so devastated by U.S. intervention that they now try to escape to our country to work for way under minimum wage in jobs that we don't want to do, but we're going to say they're stealing our jobs and don't deserve our taxpayer money when really they're the foundation of our farming and economic system. Well, for regular people anyway, like rich people, they just have all their fucking funds in hedge funds and bank accounts with numbers and letters in them that I don't fucking understand. And somehow they just keep making money off of these things. And I guess that they have made so much money that they don't care about blowing up the whole fucking world in public, you know. They've always been blowing the whole world up behind the scenes, you know what I'm saying? And we were all distracted by American Idol, you know. What's that one fucking old show, the Johnny Davis show, the Johnny Carson show, some shit like that? As soon, you know, propaganda over the years is crazy how it's changed, you know what I'm saying? They use propaganda to demonize black people. They use propaganda to demonize Chinese people. They use propaganda to demonize Italians, Irish, blah, blah, blah. I could go on forever, you know what I'm saying? I'm particularly familiar with the demonization of black people through the media because I'm black. And it has affected my life, you know, in multiple ways. You really be surprised at how ignorant older people are. Like, I'm 31. Racism is very normal. You know, it was very normal growing up in the very Republican county that I lived in. And it's like, I am in a way very thankful for all the racist incidents that I had to go through because it makes me not a fucking idiot. Like, it makes me realize that all these people saying like, "Oh, racism died in the '60s and '70s." I'm like, bro, you realize like, you know, they killed MLK. He didn't die of old age. Like, Oh, bruh. I don't know. The getting to talk about that is like, it's just hilarious to honestly think about it. Like, to think about the level of ignorance. You gotta understand that America is still largely segregated by race. If you look at the numbers and statistics and the demographics and such of that nature, and each community lives in this certain echo chamber, you know what I'm saying? And it's like the stereotypes of the community have metastasized into ways of living that are, it's like stereotypes of stereotypes. Like, it's like now, because propaganda has created these stereotypes and it's been thrown throughout the media that these people act like this, these people act like this. If you want to be like this, then act like this. If you want to be like this, then... Now people are playing to the stereotype, because they think it is correct. They think it is how they are supposed to act. So, like, people acting like the media does not have an effect on the collective consciousness. You're an idiot. Like, literally, you are very dumb. Like, we can honestly say most kids get raised by the world more than they get raised by their parents. You know what I'm saying? And because our educational system, our parenting system, all these systems that are supposed to pass information from adult to child, whether in school, out of school, in the home, out of the home, or whatever, they are teaching kids what to think versus how to think. Now, you've been telling your kid what to do. In sports, I call it helicopter coaching. It's like, oh, go right, go left, go do this, oh, do that. Yeah, how about you let the kid make the decision? You know that they're the one playing. Okay, so adults have related to children in a very selfish, egotistical way, taking away their ability to make decisions, taking their ability to think critically and be free to believe in themselves. So we're creating all these insecure kids who then become insecure adults, and insecurity and fear makes you desire for control that you can't have. So when life inevitably shows you that you can't have control, now you're having a fucking mental breakdown. You know what I'm saying? Now you're pounding natty lights in somebody's garage and destroying your liver and saying, "Oh, you're just having a good time." Like, shout at you, man. Get your experimentation off and everything like that. But like the idea that we have normalized the use of substances to distract from our personal BS. It's gambling advertisements everywhere, alcohol advertisements everywhere, shit, weed and shit now. I'm no fucking, like, sober person, like, or a teetotaler, or however the fuck you say it. But, turns out that using drugs to run away from your emotions is not good. Okay, and you can turn anything into a drug. You know what I'm saying? You can be addicted to anything. Because to me, addiction is just a way for people to regulate their nervous system. So I think of OCD as an addiction, really. Like, any motherfucker that gotta walk into the room and flip the light switch on 7 times, that motherfucker is addicted. Okay? Or they're like, oh, I have to wash my hands 11 times before I can live my life. That's an addiction. And it's sad. Okay? I was gonna say also hilarious, but I'm very removed from it. And I bet I wouldn't think it was funny if somebody was on light flip number 6 and then somebody pushed them away, and then they just had a complete fucking mental breakdown because they couldn't get the number 7. I I don't think that would be that funny. Conceptually, like in a large sense, it's pretty funny to think about. Maybe funny is not the right word, but in the moment, I'd be like, they have real issues. They got to deal with this. they they need to they need to talk to somebody. You know what I'm saying? And it's like everybody and like all the psychology videos. We're all fucking psychologists now. We watch these fucking YouTube shit. We read a couple books, and we're like, per page 233 of The Myth of Normal by Gabor Mate. Highly recommend that book if you don't understand that a fucked society is what creates fucked people. Seems pretty simple on the surface, but you'd be surprised how deep it goes. Now we're like, everything goes back to childhood trauma. You know what I'm saying? And it makes sense to me. If your life is based on your brain and your body, which are the same thing, because they're both connected by your nervous system, and your nervous system's foundations are built when you're a child, when you're developing, based on how your nervous system is affected by your childhood environment, that has a large say in how your body and mind react or interpret life as you grow up. And I think that this whole nature over nurture and it's in your gene shit is just a way to make excuses for a society that undermines healthy development. And this is not anything new. And it's funny, it doesn't seem like it's some kind of novel concept, but people will deny this all the time. Like, people would rather fucking like, no, I'm a bad boy. I'm a bad boy. It's my fault. It's my fault. Well, first off, completely blaming yourself for anything like doesn't make sense, Like, I'm not saying you should not take responsibility for your actions. That's definitely not what I'm saying. And I'm definitely not saying that you should be always looking for people to blame for your actions or anything like that. What I am saying is that an intelligent person, a liberated person, realizes that there are certain causes and conditions that lead to things. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, as human beings, we have a lot of stuff heaped up on us that we might not have caused or created the conditions for, but we end up with the responsibility for dealing with. We end up with the responsibility for healing ourselves. No one's going to heal you except for you, ultimately. You're looking for healing outside of yourself that can only come from inside at the end of the day. An understanding of yourself that can only come from inside at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? I could tell you something all day, but until you get that motherfucking shit in your head, it's not going to matter what I say. You know what I'm saying? I might as well be speaking a foreign language. Like, I could be like, and that's the thing. Like, we're supposed to have adults model healthy and beneficial decision-making skills, healthy emotional resilience, healthy being calm. We're supposed to have calm adults around to model health for us. But most of us don't, because most of the adults are not healthy. They're weird. They're weird. They're like, they're doing their best. And their best kind of sucks. You know what I'm saying? So, as younger people, let's do our best, but make sure our best doesn't suck. Let's learn how to be healthy. Like, it's so weird to me, like, all these people, like, demonizing, trying to, like, be healthy. Like, yeah, you can go above and beyond with anything, like becoming addicted to working out and, all those things that anything that results from an attachment to outside validation is ultimately going to be unhealthy, because attachment is the root of all suffering, according to Buddhism and according to shit that makes sense. So attachment is the root of all suffering. We live in a society that teaches us to be attached to outside validation from a young age, from childhood, because it is how we survive. By receiving outside validation, we get attention, we get resources and everything from our parental figures and shit like that. And we carry that misunderstanding of what living means into our adulthood and realize that and not realize that that is the reason why we remain unfulfilled, because we're always doing something for somebody else. We really have no idea who we are, you know what I'm saying? Because we're not taught to really examine ourselves, ask ourselves questions, like ask ourselves the real big question, like, what do I want? You know what I'm saying? Where am I going? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is my way? You know what I'm saying? Everyone has to create their own way. Only you can follow your journey. You know what I'm saying? So the comparing, it's like, it makes no sense. Like, everybody's running their own race per se. And I fucking hate that terminology, because why is everything a fucking race? Everything's a competition. That's another way they've colonized your mindset, making everything a fucking competition. Now you even compete against yourself when no one else is around. We don't think about collaborating with ourselves, propping ourselves up, being our own best friend. No, it's like that same voice that tells us that we're not shit. It's like we think that's like a motivating factor. Like, bro, all my coaches that were dickheads, they didn't motivate me. Maybe I was just too much of a dickhead, bro. But you can't put a leash on a lion, bro. And I want these kids to be lions. I want them to be leaders, bro. And you got to give them space to grow. You got to teach them that they are capable of making their own decisions and bouncing back from perceived mistakes, you know? But instead, we get these like dumbass adults who are all about control and will do anything to maintain it over the kids. Like, bro, if you arguing with a kid, you competing with a kid, you're an idiot. You know what I'm saying? Why are you losing your? And then we normalize like these adults losing their temper and losing their adults, and I mean losing their maturity in a lot of different situations, but especially in regards to kids. Like, it's a whole brand of comedy, whole brand of content based around talking about how shitty kids are. Y'all are weird, bro. Like, you're really just telling on yourself. Like, I do not have the emotional capacity to healthily deal with things outside of my control. And it's not only with kids, that same mindset extends to other parts of your life, but because of the power dynamics in the adult child relationship, you just end up bullying the kid or forcing them to do whatever. And you try to do the same thing to other adults, but you might try to be nicer about it. You know what I'm saying? You might try to use soft manipulation tactics versus like outright force versus a kid, or you might try to use outright force against other adults. And we're seeing more. It seems like we're seeing more and more of that. Like, I don't know. I got to stay off the internet. The internet is bullshit. It's not really real. Like, it is real, but it's like another reality. You gotta understand, like, it's like a vortex that can suck your attention into something that you're very removed from. And it's like now we're making all these judgments about realities that we're removed from. And turns out, based on evolution, being somewhere when something happens, actually, it matters. You know, like, I don't think we're built to take in so much information, like all this content. Like, this shit, like, our brain and our guts is like millions or millennia old. Like, it's just completely new territory that we're in. And we can deal with it ably. Humans are very capable of dealing with this, but you have to be able to emotionally regulate yourself, and you have to be in touch with your feelings and emotions. And, like, you know, I don't want to be like, oh, you got to meditate, bro. But, you know, meditation helps. Eating healthy helps, you know, so you don't have so many toxins in your body when you're trying to intake information that has your emotions up and down. Like speaking to yourself, like asking yourself, am I aware? Or saying like, I'm not inside of this reality right now when you're looking at your phone. Like, touch grass, bro. Touch grass. That shit's real, bro. Go hug a tree, dog. Just you and the tree, man. For about 3 minutes, man. Just chill, bro. But we have to find ways to tap in with ourselves and mostly regulate ourselves that are not based on technology. And we have to understand what technology is doing to us, and there's a big difference between using technology as a tool and using technology as a crutch. And now we're starting to lose the plot. We're starting to use technology as a crutch and call it using it as a tool. Like, people are like, people are like, oh, technology makes us more efficient. Okay, how do you define efficiency? Because a lot of you guys define efficiency as like, I don't have to do fucking shit. I don't have to do anything. It's not efficiency. Technology is to make you better at doing things, not make it so you don't have to do anything. Then you're like, I don't know why I feel so purposeless and passionless and oh my god, life is just this. Then you fucking order some shit on DoorDash, you know what I'm saying? Or you spend all your mental energy commenting on YouTube, and no judgment, because I've done the same thing. Like, I might fucking do the same thing, but it is the awareness of these cycles. Like, being aware of what is going on and not normalizing this behavior because society has normalized it. Society is dumb. Society has been dumb for a long time. I feel like humans are a lot better than society, but we fall to the level that our society encourages much of the time. Like, slavery was legal, beating your wife was legal, women not having the ability to vote was legal, Japanese internment camps were legal, Chinese internment camps was legal. These motherfuckers installed dictators in other countries. That shit was legal according to their laws. The society's laws they don't match up with morality. They don't match up with true spiritual values. So that's why, in the Bible, I'm not a Christian. But I believe that there's, all these words and stories and stuff like that. If they make sense, they make sense. It doesn't matter if it's the Bible, the Quran, Jenny's Substack page, Jenny's blog, like whatever. Life is so all over the place. Just get game from where you can get it. Take wisdom from where you can get it. In regards to these stupid ass adults, I know that they're not emotionally regulated, and a lot of them be talking from their ego and from a sense of fear and everything like that. Try to be aware of that and try to just, okay, are they giving me game right now? Even if it's coming in a fucked up form, because most of them are fucked up. Most of us are fucked up in some ways, but if they're leading with love and compassion and intention and everything like that, it's a lot easier to take lessons from them. But even if they're not, try to see where they're coming from. If you want to. If you're just like, this person's an asshole, I'm not going to listen to him, that's totally fine too. But, don't let it affect you. You got to be emotionally resilient, have emotional boundaries. Or what I see is, for a lot of kids, I feel like, is they're taking in so much content and they think they got to care about everything. And there's a much bigger difference between like being aware of something and being emotionally invested in something. And because we're not aware of the fact that we can emotionally invest in things that we expose ourselves to through our phone, through technology or stuff like that, we're making a lot of emotional investments without noticing it. And then we're confused about where our energy is going or why we seem all over the place. Emotionally invest in yourself. Like, you have to invest time to get to understand yourself and know yourself. We We always try to know the world, but you're going to know the world through yourself. Yourself is the lens of which you're going to know the world, you know. Then in Buddhism, they have this, there is no self. And when people make this shit really confusing, but it's basically just like, if I see somebody else and I think that they're mean mugging me, and I'm judging them as to be angry or mean or whatever, like I'm creating that person in my mind. You know what I'm saying? And they could just be having a bad day. So it's like I have put an understanding of this person. I've created them in my mind through my perception. And just like we do that with other people, creating others through stories that we tell, we do it with ourselves as well. We put ourselves in a box of identities saying, I'm this way, I'm that way, I'm supposed to be this way, I'm supposed to be that way, blah, blah, blah. So basically, like, all the stuff that we consider to be us is really things that we have attached ourselves to in the outside world. Like ideas and concepts that come from other people, those are the outside world, and we think it is who we are, but ultimately it is not. We are telling ourselves that it is us. So we're creating our quote unquote self based on other people's creations. So then it's like, okay, how can the self exist if this self is just me mixing up and remixing a bunch of stuff that other people have made up? Ideas and concepts that other people have created, I'm using to create this idea of who I am. So the journey of maturation is learning, what have I picked up from my environment? What have I picked up from the people and the places and things that I've been in and around that I'm confusing for who I really am? And get to learn who you really are, detached from what your parents told you or your teachers told you or what society tells you and those things. And once you detach from things, it actually allows you to care about things much more deeply. Once you detach from this idea of who I am and this self, now it allows you to grow and change and to flow with life's energy, because you're no longer imprisoned by the idea that you have to act a certain way or be a certain way, or like, I can't dance. You're like, oh, I'm only telling myself I can't dance because all these people on TikTok, that's the idea of how I think I'm supposed to be able to dance. So I don't do it. And you be like, oh, I can dance, or even I will dance, regardless of how other people judge me and how I judge myself. Because most people's judgment of their self is based on how they think other people are judging them. So it's really just a whole clusterfuck of dumbassery. Like, you are using energy to try and read other people's minds, basically. So you're using energy to do something that's impossible, and in the process, distracting yourself from investing energy in doing what you actually want to do, which is dance. Or, for example, to live life to the fullest in the moment. But you're like, no, I have to use the energy I could be using to live life fully in the moment to uh, try and be a fucking psychic about what the hell somebody else is thinking. And the other person's probably not even fucking thinking about you. And if they are, then like they're thinking about the wrong fucking thing. So it's just a whole bunch of weird shit going on that's been like that we don't think about, and we build these habits of seeing the world this way, and we don't even realize it because we're not aware of it. We're just emotionally reacting from moment to moment. We never think about remaining calm or like breathing calmly, or like tension in our body, or the fact that why should we judge when we don't have power over the world? Like, we all wouldn't be the main character, but we're all background characters in the universe's story, basically. The universe existed before us, it's going to exist after us. You know what I'm saying? To act like you're such a big deal or you have so much say is pretty arrogant. And once you are able to humble yourself, then you realize, okay, I can't have control, but I do have influence. And it helps you to realize and remind yourself that your choices matter. A lot of kids are depressed, a lot of adults are depressed because we think that our choices don't matter, you know, but they always do. But our choices don't give us control, but we do have influence, you know. So